If we now wish to plot this data out to a custom-made title block file, predefined by our company standards, we can do this by using the plot frame option inside 12D model. If I left click on the plotting icon at the top of the view here, you can see that there's an option called plot frames. Now for this to work, you already need an existing title block file inside 12D model. And a title block file is basically a title block that you can either create in 12D using the CAD option, so you can draw up a rectangle at the scale of your paper size, so an A4 or A3 size, and draft in all the lines and text that you need for this company title block file. Or you could import an existing one from AutoCAD. So you can import go to File AO, Data Input, and then DWG, and import a DWG file of your existing title block. And once you have that title block in there, you go to Plot, go down the plotting setups, and create edit title block file. And this will basically save a .tbf file, that whatever name you call it. And then you select write. We're not going to run through that in detail in this video, but EXDS do have other videos that do give detailed explanations on how to create a title block file. We already have an existing title block file we're going to use, so we're going to basically, to use the plot frames, we need to create the plot frame first. And to do that, if we want to plot this data out using a defined title block file, we need to go to Plot, then down the plot frames, and then create. We need to create a plot frame. This will bring up the new plot frame create panel. The first thing you need to do where it says title file is load in a predefined title block file, a .tbf file. So that's what I was talking about. You already need to have one of these files inside 12D to use this option. So if I left click on the folder icon, and I've got one in my user library, and I've got one called Clean Skin A3 title block file. So this is where you'll have one for A1, one for A3, and another one for A4. So I'm going to use the A3 one like we did with the quick sheet plot. And once you select the .tbf file, it already fills out the rest of the panel for you. So you can see the name of the title block of the plot frame it's going to create. And this is the model it's going to place the plot frame in. The color of the plot frame, the scale. So I want to change the scale. I know 1 to 500 is pretty close. The sheet size, so it's set to this is an A3 title block file, so you normally wouldn't change it. Like I said, you normally have one for each size here, so you don't have to change this sheet size. And then we can play around the rotation angle, and then you've got the origin. So the origin you normally just pick at the start, and we can edit it later on. So I'm just going to pick and accept somewhere there in the screen, and you can see it just gets the coordinates. Draw viewport border. I'm going to leave that ticked on, and this just draws our plot frame so we can see where it's cutting data if we need to move it or not. Draw frame border I leave ticked off. We don't need that on. One thing you might want to check is the margin. So at the moment our left margin's 10, our right margin's 20. I'm going to make it just 10 and 10. So they're the same. Top margin's 10 mil and the bottom margin's 40 mil to allow for company text and logos and things like that. So once you're happy with this, if we now go to the bottom left and click on Create in this panel, you can see the panel flashes and changes to a new plot frame. So it jumps to the editing of the plot frame panel now. So now we can edit the plot frame. And that's easy. Before we do that, we have to turn on this model though our plot frame's in so we can see it. So I'm going to go over to the plus icon and turn on this model Clean Skin A3 plot frame. So it's whatever model name was in here. So I select this. And there we go, there's our plot frame. So you can see the 10 mil margins at the left, right and top, and the 40 mil margin at the bottom to allow for text. So now we can see we need to move this plot frame down a bit. So the easiest way to do that is just go left click on Translate, and this dynamically moves the plot frame around. So we can and it just grabs it, you can see the cursor at the very bottom left corner. So I'm gonna move it around until I get basically all my data in the screen. So somewhere here, left click and accept. So our plot frame set. You could also do the same if you want to rotate it. So where it says rotate, you can left click and you can spin it around now off that hinge point at the bottom left corner. And it's just like typing in an angle, a rotation angle. You could do the same and type an angle in there. So once you're happy with this, press set and you can see the frame's updated. And now we can go finish. So we've got our plot frame there and it's created, ready to go. So once you have created the plot frame and it's displayed on the view where we wish to plot the data, we now have to go to the plotting icon, which is already open here, and go to plot frames. And this brings up the plot frame PPF editor. The first thing we're going to do, and it's on the plot frame panel here, this is the plot frame panel, is we're going to work our way from top to bottom and fill this panel out. The first thing we need to do is where it says single plot frame, left click on the arrow and just left click and accept. So you should get the line snap appear and accept that, and you should get your plot frame name appear in the plot frame. If we had more than one plot frame, we would have all our plot frame in the model and would select the model here. So we could either, if you only got one individually, you can just select it, or we can select the model our plot frame's in. So I'm just going to leave it at this one at the moment. View the plot, left click on the view icon and choose our view 1. So this is view 1, as you can see down the bottom left that our data's turned on. Plotter type, if I left click on this plotting icon, it's going to plot out to a model first. So again, a model is a good way of checking inside 12D that your title block and the data is correctly displayed before we go and waste paper or plot it out to a DWG in AutoCAD and realize it's wrong. So plot out to a model and give the model a name. So I'm just going to call it plot. I'm not that confident that I'm going to get it right the first time. So as a habit, I always go always clean, just in case. So if I redo this again, the old data is still not overlapping on the top of the new data we're fixed. If you want to use drawing numbers for each plot frame, you could tick this on and that will display the drawing numbers if you had more than one plot frame. So now we've filled this panel out, you want to come up the top here and then just give it a name. This is a parameter file which will save all these details. So next time, if you're going to plot using one plot frame and to this one view, to this model and always clean, this will remember everything that you set. So it saves you filling it out. So I'm just going to type A3 plot frame. And then I'm going to write it out once I type the name in. So I write that out and you can see down the very bottom left, it's saved it. All right, so this plot frame panel is filled out, but now we need to go down to notes. If you want to add anything about your PPF file here, you can document it. So any changes you do, or just so other people in the company can know what's going on with it. I'm not going to bother with that, but I will go to where it says title block. You click on the plus button and we'll click on the title block info here, or the panel. All right, common title block parameters. In this case, standard title is our 12D title block file that we use in the quick sheet plot. We're not going to use that. If you're going to use a TBF file, one that has your company's details in it, check on use title file. Since we're using a title file, we're not worried about line 1 and line 2 like we did with the quick sheet plot. So the rest of this data we can leave blank. We're not worried about because it's already set up inside your title block file where you choose what color you want the text and etc, etc. So now we'll go down. So once we've filled that out, we can write that again. Just replace, and that will just save this panel here, and then we'll go down to the next panel, user title info. So this is where we select our .tbf file, our title block file. So where it says title file, left click on the folder icon, and then we're going to go to user library and select our title block file that we did this plot frame with. So if you remember, my one was the clean skin A3 title block file. If I select that, and you can see it brings up drawing names. So you can have a whole predefined list of different outputs you can have as text in the title block file. And these are also set under project details. And when you start a project, you can predefine and have all this information filled out so it appears in your title block file. So this is pretty much, I've selected my title block file. I'm just going to write it out again and just replace it because we're not changing the name. So now we've saved it. So now we're ready to plot. So once we've filled out all this information, like we've done, if we now select plot, it will plot this data out using this title block file and this plot frame. So I'll go on plot and you can see it's finished. And now what I'm going to do is go to my view 3 that's empty. And I'm going to turn on my plot 1. That's what it calls it. Just puts a 1 on the end of this name here. Select. And there we go. So if I zoom in, you can see there's our data and then there's our title block. So it's using basically your company's details And then if you filled out this project details, all this data can come through already predefined. So it saves you entering in text in here now, all that would already come through and you can just plot it straight out to the printer or AutoCAD. So once you're happy with this and you like the way the model looks, we could now simply go up to where it says model and change that and go to Windows, which is color, select, and I could choose my printer here and I could plot it out at A3 and know it would look all right. Could also do the same to AutoCAD. If you wanted to plot it out to AutoCAD, you could do a Dwg plot. Just remember when you plot to AutoCAD though, you will lose the coordinate system this data is in, and also all the data will be in one layer inside AutoCAD. Usually plotting to a DWG is good for long and cross sections, but plan views are usually exported using the File IO option, which I'll show you in the next video. If you need any of these .tbf files, get in contact with us at EXDS. Ring the support line or send us an email at support@exds.com.au and we can give you some of our predefined title block files that we've made up that you can have an edit to your own standards.